here for the workshop 0 to Dapps, and I'm talking about decentralized login and storage with Blockstack, and I will explain what I mean by that. It's really about building a web app and building a web app without a server. So if you know Visual Studio Code and if you know React and Yarn and NPM, that's good to go. Let's see. At first, I would like to start with a disclaimer. So we're talking about new technology and decentralization, blockchain, cryptography is something that's new to everyone, everyone in the broader general public. So society might not be ready to use all these, but we try to. I can try to increase sound. Thank you for the feedback. A bit. What about this? Is this better? Need more sound? Even more sound? Like this? Can you hear me now better? Still not good enough? Better, but well, let's see. Okay, thank you. Let's continue. So the blockchain is not. Society might not be ready, and I don't give any financial advice. So if you think you have to buy token, don't do it, because I'm telling something about Blockstack. So we really want to do a web app. So no blockchain or investment. Let's go. The challenge is that I do a bit of Blockstack history. It's really a project that started back in 2013, and nowadays we are at 2020, and they're about to release a blockchain that is really using Blockstack. But I just want to clarify that it's an old project existing for a while now, and we want to make use of the Blockstack technology. It really tries to help building decentralized apps. What does it mean, decentralizing apps? So there are different aspects in an application that can be decentralized. For example, decentralized identity. That means every user can create their own identity. They are in control of the identifier they share with other users. Common identifiers are, for example, your email address, your phone number, but you are not in control of these identifiers. You have to ask big companies, and they provide you one, and if they decide you're not good enough or you did something they don't like, then these identifiers are withdrawn from you, and you have to create a new identity. So decentralized identity is when you're in control, and others can use the identity and verify certain properties on this identity, so that they know, okay, this is from you. Usually it's by signature. And there are different types of identities, and they really try to get rid of passwords. So there's a working group of the W3C consortium. That means it's about to become an internet standard, and it's a problem that everyone has, and companies and the internet community recognize that this is a problem and this needs to be solved. If you log in with an identity, usually what happens is that apps talk to an authenticator that is on your device. So you do not ask the big companies to verify your login, but it happens on your device with cryptography. And there are different solutions to that. It's 45 different methods that exist there, and Blockstack is one of them. and I think Blockstack is one of the most advanced one. The next part in an application that can be decentralized is the storage, where you put your data. You can decentralize by using different locations, or you can duplicate it on different places. But the main purpose is really that you get rid of servers that you have to maintain. And Blockstack provides the Gaia protocol. That is the protocol how you decentralize your storage, and I come back to that later. And with these decentralized options, the goal is really to get rid of these monolithic applications where you have one database with all the user data, and then a different application where you have the same users again, but in a different database. We want to move to a concept or to a situation where the user is in control of these 1, 2, 3 application databases, and everyone. So you have many users, and each of them are in control of these databases. So let's start with some coding. And the first challenge I want to say is, let's store data that a user entered. Like, you have a simple form, you write a text, a note to yourself, and you want to save it. And you don't want to put it on a server that is controlled by someone else. The user doesn't want to do that, and you don't want to be responsible for the security of this server. And in addition, the user would like to see it across devices and across sessions, so that whenever they log in or visit the application again, they see the same data. And there's an application to get you started that is called one rebel.run. So that is the URL, and it's a starter app to use modern React technology with hooks, and it shows you how you can save it. So let's do it. We go to the browser, and where is the browser? Let's see. Here's the browser. The browser is here. The other browser. Sorry. So here is the browser. We go to one rebel run. That is the application, and you can do the same at the moment and follow the steps. So what you will see is in a bit of explanation how it works, and then you can log in. When you log in, you see the login page where you need to create a new Blockstack ID. So it's really an identifier that you control. After you say, oh, I want to create a new ID, you're asked to enter a username, like this is my username. It needs to be 8 letters or more. So just feel free to follow these steps on your own browser. And from there, you create a password to protect your identity from others if they get access to your device. So it's the cryptographic key is encrypted with a password. Your private key is encrypted with a password, and you enter this here. And then in the next step, you get a recovery for your identity in case you lose your device, or you want to move your identity to a new device. You get an email with a magic recovery code, and with your password that you shouldn't forget, you can recover your identity. So once you have done this, you see that you are ready, and from there you can use your application. So when you're logged in, you will see that you can enter a node, and when you're signed in, that's me sign in quickly. Then I choose my identity. In this case, it's Friedger.id. And then I'm ready to use the application. And this identity is used for any different application that is connected to Blockstack or using Blockstack technology. So if I use Corona, I enter some text and I save it. And now the interesting part is to see what's happening. We are using the Blockstack technology and we're using decentralized storage. So where is it stored? It's not stored in local storage because then we don't get the possibility to get the data across devices or across different sessions. So when we want to see what's going to happen, let's inspect the network. So whenever we save the node that we store, we see a request to our storage. And when we load the page, then we see that we load from the storage again. And in this case, you can see a very tiny, let's make it bigger. You can see that this one is an encrypted message. Let's see, how can we make this bigger? So I hope you can see enough. It's an encrypted message. It says that it was a string and that it has some kind of encryption in there. Not the best. But what I want to say, if I share this URL with you in the chat and you can open it and then you can see what's in there. So everyone can see this now. I've put it in the Twitch chat and you can see that it is encrypted message that no one else can access. But for me it makes sense because I have the private key, I have my identity, and therefore I can access this information. Now let's go back to the presentation. Sorry, and you see, when you log in, you see also a picture and you see some more information, a name, and you can also enter the biography. And these information are all stored in the just a second, I make a pause. How do I do that? Quarantine time. And I'm done. Oh no. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for quick introduction. So let's continue. So what I want to say is that with your identity, you have a public profile. And the public profile is stored on your storage. You can find other profiles if you visit, for example, the Explorer. The Explorer is a website that looks into all the data that is associated to users. And I made certain information available. For example, that my name, as I said, also my user accounts on Twitter, that you find me, and on GitHub, and a Bitcoin address that you can use. And you can see this one is public file. It's in my storage, and there is for example, here the account, Twitter account. And there's also a list of information about different apps that is publicly available and important. if I want to share data with other users. So, and if you want to start using the app, it's open source, so you can use GitHub git clone, and you enter the browser and then install the dependencies, and then you can start the app. So feel free to do the same. Let's go. Here we go. So we do git clone and use the git URL, and then enter the folder. You do yarn or npm if you want, and then installing all the dependencies. And when you're done, you can do yarn start, and the application development server will start, and you have a Blockstack app running locally. And then in the next step, you can deploy them to the, for example, Netlify. So some kind of a hosting service that provides your data. Looking at the code, what is happening? So Blockstack, the starter kit uses, as I showed before, it uses the React Blockstack package, React Blockstack here, and React Blockstack is based on Blockstack.js and obviously React, and in this case it uses the Bootstrap theming, and when you launch it, then when you open the browser, what's happening? I see there's black screen. Let's see what's happening. Oh, I see. Okay. We go to the code. Here we go. Let's see. So now it's better. So if you look into the code, there is the, let's go to presentation mode. We see in the app that we have a hook. Sorry, wrong. So we have a hook in main. We have one hook to get us started. That is use Blockstack. And use Blockstack provides you with information about the user when they are signed in. So if you're signed in, then if you have a user, then you show the main page with the information about the user that just logged in. And if you're provided with a sign-in method, then you show the landing page. So use Blockstack hook provides you with user data if the user is signed in, and also with the sign out method if the user is signed in, or with the sign in method if the user is not signed in. And you're also provided with a user session. The user session is the main Blockstack object that helps you to manage the user's data and identity. Then let's have a look how we save data. There we have a hook. This one is the node field where you enter the nodes. You have a hook that says use file, and it just allows you to give you a name for the file, and then you have a variable that contains the content of the file in the storage, and a method to save the file in the storage. So the save action is just a call to set node with the value entered from the text field. And the input field will always show the node if there was some content in the file. And that's already all that you need to create a simple application that shows and stores user data. So there is a question about what is the role on decentralization. Going back to the, so the role of the, I store data encrypted online, but not on my server that I need to maintain, but on a server that is owned by the user and maintained by the user. So let's see. So this was the question. I store the data for each user at a different place. So I, as the application developer, I don't have to maintain one server for all the users, but each user maintains their own server, their own storage provider for their own data. I have a slide where I explain this a bit more. So I, as an application developer, I create some code, and this code needs to be hosted somewhere. And then the user comes in and picks up the code and runs on one or several devices on different sessions. And the data is stored at the location that the user defines. Blockstack provides a default storage, so you can start easily when you sign up with your, when you create your own identity with Blockstack. It's configured that you get a storage provided by Blockstack. But you can also run your own storage, your own Gaia storage on your own server. And the I'm just checking time, so we're good for now. And the I lost what did I say? So the user gets free storage provided by Blockstack, but it's possible to configure your identity to store the information on your own storage, self-hosted, or you create IPFS storage for you. I, as an application developer, I do not care. I look up just your profile. You provide me, the user provides me with information where I should store the data, and then I do this with Blockstack.js using the hook use file. This is where I store my data then. This is how it works. The storage is interesting because it provides you a sandbox. There's another question. So I need a server on my phone. No, you don't need a server on your phone. It's in the cloud. So it's not about a ledger at the moment. So we're talking about storing user data on one place that the user defines. We do not talk about the possibility to have a globally agreed state of the application. So we just want that one user can provide, can store their own data at their own place. If we want to go further, then we can also have connection to a blockchain, to a ledger. But at the moment, we only care about where I store my user data. Blockstack and your identifiers that you create, they are stored on the Blockstack blockchain. But that is not too much of importance for now. There was a question that if I store it in the cloud, the data will be on someone else's computer. Yeah, that's right. I choose the provider for my data, and there I trust that the data will be stored. We have good providers of cloud storage, and we can facilitate this, and therefore we trust them that the data is where it is. What's different is that the data is encrypted with a key that I control, and also that the application data is distributed. So there's not one single point of some kind of honeypot or something. So there's another question: where do you store the key? This key is stored on your device, and you can remove it, you can recover it, and put it on a different device. There's also the possibility to have it on a hardware wallet. There are different options. We try to make it as easy as possible for the user, and yeah. So the technology for encryption, there's a question: is it similar to PGP? It's similar to PGP in the sense that you try to distribute information about your keys, but the keys are distributed through the blockchain. So you can look up the blockchain and find the keys for a particular user. And the encryption technology is the same as for Bitcoin. So we use elliptic curve encryption. And yeah, I hope that answers your question. Now, the next step, I continue a bit with the presentation. The next step is let's see. So here I want to talk a bit more about the keys. So you have one key, and the key is owned by the user. There's no one else who has access to it. No one is storing this key in the cloud. And now when we open, I don't see when we open a decentralized app, then a new key is generated that is used to talk with your authenticator. So the communication between the application and your authenticator, so that is the bit that holds your private key. The communication is encrypted, and the authenticator, this application that knows your private key, that derives a application key from the private key plus the domain name. So that means each application has a different key that is used in the application. And no one gets ever to know anything about your private key or your identity. But you, the application, gets a private key that is kind of sandboxed, so your data is only available. So that's sandboxed. Your data is not related to your identity, or it's not visible. It's not. You cannot trace back to your identity, and the application gets only the information about your identity that you provide. So let's see, what does it mean in the That's a bit maybe let's just summarize this slide with your data is sandboxed and there's no way to link one's application data to another application data. I want to take another challenge in the sense that now we want to view data from other users. So before I sent you a link on the stream chat about my node, but now we want to make sense of it. So instead of storing encrypted data, I store public data, unencrypted data, visible for the public. And we don't want to use a server, and we want to share this data across apps. And for that, there's an application to learn about that's called Animal Kingdom. And if you visit animalkingdoms.netlify.com, you can do it right now. Then let's see what this gives. Animal Kingdom, netlify.com. It provides you a possibility to see and manage different data from different apps. So I can, so this is my identity, this is my information about me. If we look at the network and refresh it, we see that there is a file called me.json, and this information is now unencrypted. So if you visit this URL, you will see, I put it in the chat, Twitch chat. So now you will see that I'm a cat and I live in the tundra, and this is my information I want to share with you. And if you put your identity in there, your URL, share just the URL of the application with your username. So this one, if you share one of these with me, then I can add you to my kingdom. And by that, it means that I grab your me.json file and store the location of this file into my list of subjects. So I have the public information me.json, and then I have a list of all the subjects that I invited into my kingdom. And now the interesting part is that I can visit other applications, and we call them other kingdoms. For example, there is plenty of kingdoms. There's an application that is called, sorry, that was a wrong click. I wanted to see planet.friedger.de. Oh, streaming is stuck. Yeah, now we continue. So there is the this one. So now I get the information from a different application, from a different user. In this case, it's the same user, but it's a different application, and I add this information to my list of subjects. So now I got the information from this application, and you see this is a different image and a different name. And if you visit planet.friedger.de, you can sign in. And I choose my identity, so I have different profiles. And this one is my public information in the Monster Kingdom. So what I want to show here is that it's possible to share data across applications and also across users. So now I see different information, public information from different applications. And if we want to go a step further, if we want to see information from all users that used an app without a server, probably that won't work. So we want to have a server that does not have its own state. So we want a server that everyone can run. And for that, we have Radix, that is the server that everyone can run and that indexes the data that is stored by the user. Sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry. I was not sharing the application. So let's go back to the application, the Animal Kingdom. What's happening? So if you install it also locally, it's possible through Git. You have you clone the Git repo and you run it locally the same way as with the starter kit. And then you have the Animal Kingdom running locally. And if you look at the application, then here you see the that's my kingdom and the list of application, and this is how I add a new application to a new user to my kingdom. And if you look into what's happening if I refresh my application, you see that I'm calling different me files from different locations. So these are the different users. One is, for example, for the planet application for Friedger ID, and one is for the application Leborg from Decentralized Islands netlify.com. So I gather information that users made publicly available, and this gives me my kingdom and my application with shared user data. And this works also with different applications, what I tried to explain before. I hope it became clear a bit. Now, the next step I started to explain is that I want to share data. I want to see data of all the users. So before in Animal Kingdom, I selected applications. I selected data from different locations from different users. But now I want to gather all the information. Therefore, we need kind of a server that indexes all the different locations, all the different users, and then provides me with a global view. But as explained before, let's switch to the presentation. The server does not does not have any state. So everyone can re-index all the data and run the server by themselves and see the same data, the same collection of information from all the different users. And to see this, you can try banter.pub. It's kind of a microblogging application, and it's also open source, and you can learn a bit how you use Radix. We have 10 minutes left. Here are some links also in the slides. So I will share the slides through the Twitch, also through the Discord channel. And I would like to invite you to ask a question, probably on Twitch channel or on the Discord channel. In the workshop folder. I write a question in there, starter app, and also animal kingdom for the banter / Radix server. I really encourage you to just try it out, clone the Git repo and start playing around with the code. If you want to see more, I would say the starter app is the easiest way to find the locations of the code that I showed. So what you need to look for is the use file hook and the use Blockstack hook. That is for logging and for storing data. And if you don't have any more questions, thank you very much for listening, and see you on the Discord.